back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, broadcasting live on Channels Television, Lagos and Abuja. A reminder of our top stories. President Goodluck Jonathan suspends Central Bank Governor Lamido Sanusi, nominates Godwin Emefiele as his successor. House of Representatives condemns suspension of CBN Governor Sanusi in a heated session. Finance Minister Okonjo-Iweala provides assurance that Sanusi's suspension will not affect economic stability. Our big story tonight takes a look at the sudden upsurge of Boko Haram attacks in the northeast of the country. All our top stories can be found on our website, ChannelsTV.com, and on YouTube.com/channelsweb. To get us on the move, visit m.channelstv.com to view us live on your mobile device. You can also download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS, and Windows phones from their respective stores. Well, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by Dr. Boniface Chezia, an economist, to look at the suspension of Madam Sanusi. Good to have you join us this evening. Quite frankly, what was your reaction when you first heard this news?
Well, I would say that, like the government himself did say, well, Sanusi did say, this was long in coming, you know, because saying the obvious, to say that his tenure has been controversial. You know, so if you're controversial, if you go outside what you're supposed to be doing and you get into other things, then this sort of thing is bound to happen. So suspension, like the government himself did admit, was anticipated, and maybe people have come a bit earlier, you know, than he did. You
had the president's spokesman there, Dr. Abati. He gave some series of allegations against him, which he termed as financial recklessness. What would be your reaction on that?
Well, of course, one would say one's a bit surprised, because yes, Sanusi has been controversial, but then we never thought that he would be reckless, you know, in financial terms. One of the things he did say is that he's trying to push good governance, you know, when he challenged NNPC for remittances to the Federation account. He says he wants to promote good governance. As I say, you know, those who live in glass houses, you know, they don't throw stones. So if that was coming from him, you would expect that, you know, he plays it straight, you know. So one should have expected. So that was a bit of a surprise. But then, like the advisor, you know, to the president did say, you know, so they looked at the books, they looked at the statement of account, and they discovered that they sent it to some authorities who we should know better on these issues, and they found some gaps, and so issues have been taken. Of course, people are now, you know, making some allegations. People are saying that, you know, because it's thrown up all these issues about remittances to Federation account and so on and so forth.
You think that's a coincidence?
I think it's a coincidence. I think that we should promote institutions. You know, one of the problems we have as emergent countries, emergent economy, is that we try to the cult of individual. You know, we should try and begin to de-emphasize that. The fact that Sanusi leaves the central bank today does not mean that the probe is going to stop.
But the effect has actually been well, affecting a whole lot. Seeing the naira dropping. And we also saw the bond market. Can this go on after this week?
Well, I would say that that's a reaction to shock, you know, because most people were not expecting it, or even if they expected it, they were not expecting it to happen now. And so when you have a shock, normally what tends to happen is that people adopt a wait-and-see attitude, and so that's what you're experiencing. I would expect that with the assurances from the Minister of Finance, the Minister of the Economy, that you know, people will begin to see that central bank will run. You know, in spite of Sanusi. Sanusi is no longer there. You have the Monetary Policy Committee is still in place. It's not going to be sacked. And we would expect that the policies will continue. But and we'll have issues with the policies. I mean, for instance, I think that Sanusi's tenure, he was overly focused on the maintenance of a exchange rate of the naira.
So how would you rate him on that?
Well, I thought he did very well in that respect, but I thought that also there are other important issues that he didn't I thought that he missed the balance. I thought that the issue of interest rate was very important to this economy.
You know, he also talks about the future, trying to see how he can, well, protect that particular institution. He says he's going to challenge that in the law court.
Well, you know, I think there are issues about the autonomy of the central bank. I think that when we talk about autonomy of the central bank, we are talking about central bank having instrument autonomy. And so if, for instance, the government central bank decides to mop up liquidity by moving up public sector funds like he has done now, away from the banks, nobody should stop him from doing that. But you cannot have central bank being sovereign, being autonomous. At the end of the day, the central bank reports to the Minister of Finance and to the President. So it cannot be. You cannot have two sovereigns in an economy. And that's where he got it wrong. And then to say that you're going to challenge this and so on and so forth, that's a new development, because then I think that what he should do is to, you know, count his loss and just move on. You know, I think that he should be very careful with trying to do that.
In moving on, quickly before we leave, let's look at the nominee of the president, Godwin Emefiele.
I think that Emefiele would fit the mold. He's somebody I know very well. I think he's a serious person. He's quite experienced. He has a very big financial institution in this country. He has the MD of Zenith Bank. Zenith Bank, on all accounts, it's a big bank, just like Sanusi. Sanusi came from First Bank. He was appointed from First Bank. So he's been there. He's been there since Jim moved on, and he's been in the system. He's somebody who has well educated. He's a lecturer. He's a finance background, and so on and so forth. And I think somebody who's conservative. You know, I don't think somebody is. We couldn't have issues with him in terms of all these controversies that we've seen.
Well, Dr. Boniface Cheza, would like to thank you so very much for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, time there for us to have more on the News at 10 as we go to Abuja studios.
Thank you, Sulaiman, and welcome to the nation's capital. Now, this may not be the best of times for the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, as more revelations are emerging regarding its management of the nation's oil revenue. The Senate has raised an alarm, alleging that NNPC illegally spends 700 million naira a day on kerosene subsidy. Moving the motion at plenary today, Senator Babajide Omoworare claimed that the kerosene subsidy scheme has gulped 4.2 billion naira in just 6 days.
In Yaya area, in Beko petrol station, opposite Joy FM in Makodi, the price of kerosene is 155 naira.
Senator Olubumi Adetumbi
Well, we sincerely apologize for that loss of signal from our Abuja studios. We're actually looking at the Senate on the kerosene subsidy. We move on to other stories now. Ahead of the 2015 elections, the Association of Nigerian British Mayors and Councillors have asked Nigerians to be more proactive in choosing their leaders. The Nigerian-born councilmen serving in the United Kingdom are asking their compatriots to shed voter apathy and play an active role in the polls. Our London correspondent Doris Okenwa reports that participation in governance and assisting Nigerians in the UK was on the agenda at a meeting in London with the Nigerian High Commissioner.
Nigerians serving as councillors across various boroughs in the UK meeting at the Nigerian High Commission on how to improve the relationship with the Nigerian community by providing easily accessible assistance on diverse issues. Many Nigerians find it hard navigating the UK system and often run into problems with the law.
The synergy is that, okay, when people come here, what's your problem? This is your problem. Okay, call Nigerian Community Center. This is the email, this is the telephone number. Or call the British Nigerian councillors in the UK.
The secret is in knowing where to go and having experienced residents from one's home country available to help.
I know Nigerians, we can make it wherever we put our head.
A good understanding and participation in the UK's political stage, especially at the council level, helps, as some of the councillors lament the laid-back attitude of Nigerians in diaspora when it comes to participating in the UK policy-making process.
Taking a backstage had never helped, and it is time for us to be upfront and be proactive.
Because for a long period we've been complaining. You can't continue to complain. You want to make things happen by joining the establishment.
It is very, very important we Nigerians to just show people that we are not just what they hear in the telly, you know, about kidnapping and fraud and robbery. There are many Nigerians all over the place, particularly in UK here, who are very, very educated and very useful.
Drawing on the UK experience, Nigerians back home are encouraged to engage in the political process regardless of the challenges that have bedeviled previous elections in the country.
If you want to make a change to any system, you have to be in there to make that change. But what's happening in Nigeria is a lot of people are out and making and complaining.
The Nigerian voters, they're not asking about programs. They're only talking about this man has moved from party A to party B.
When you are inside decision-making process, you are able to speak for your people and you're able to understand how procedures and policies work.
Look at the candidate. Is this person a credible person that I want to vote for? I want this person to represent me. Use your vote based on that rather than who gave you money.
Voters' apathy is an issue the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and civil society groups have been trying to address in the country. Doris Okenwa, Channels Television News, London.
Since 2009, when the Boko Haram insurgents intensified their attacks, thousands of people have been killed. The technicalities involved in the operations to stem the tide of the insurgents have largely stood in the way of the fight. Despite the federal government's promise to halt the spate of the violence, the terrorists have continued to wage the war in 3 of the states under emergency rule. Our big story tonight takes a look at the upsurge in the Boko Haram attacks.
Indomie instant noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
The security situation in the northeast must be brought to a complete stop before April 2014.
Those words are encouraging considering the spate of attacks and the killings in Nigeria's northeast region. Some of the deaths have come in tens, but the Saturday raid on Izege village of Borno State is quite unusual and distressing. Eyewitnesses claim over 100 people were killed. That figure reflects disturbing statistics of over 240 people killed just this year alone. 159 were said to have been killed in 2013. That figure reflects disturbing statistics of over 240 people killed just this year alone. 159 were said to have been killed in 2013. But since 2009 that Boko Haram sect intensified its attacks, about 3,600 people are said to have been killed. The matter triggered emotions in the National Assembly.
Mr. Speaker, so I think it is time for us to actually treat the Northeast as a war zone, send in all the equipment we can send in, get the aircraft to overfly that area.
The governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, believes the insurgents are better armed and motivated than the military.
In all fairness to officers and men of the Nigerian army and police, they are doing their best given the circumstances they have found themselves in. But honestly, the Boko Haram are better armed and better motivated than our own troops.
The Nigerian government does not quite agree with the governor's take on the matter. It says it's winning the war.
We want to reassure Nigerians and members of the international community that though it is in the character of insurgents to create maximum fear because they seek publicity, their sporadic attacks on soft targets is being contained and will be halted.
Based on what I know of this country's military capability, the army is not overwhelmed. I would like to say they are now docile. The military is docile. They are docile because it's not the same people we know out there. Yes, they had challenges, they have shortcomings. But then, if you compare them to the first 6 months lease of the state of emergency.
The Nigerian government has stepped up its fight against the insurgents. Last May, it declared a state of emergency in 3 of the states mostly hit by the insurgency. And last November, too, the United States designated Boko Haram a terrorist organization. From that point on, the dimension of the fight seems to have changed as more troops were deployed. But what could be responsible for the recent upsurge in the attacks?
They have, they have what it takes to think. They have intelligence to gather, to know what their own adversary will be thinking at the same time. So that is why we need to think ahead of them.
There is a new leadership within the military hierarchy. What impact could that have on the insurgency fight?
So change of leadership per se, may not have the magic wand to this ugly tide of Boko Haram if intelligence is not improved and there is no patriotism on the part of everybody.
Countdown 2015 then, it will not be surprising for me if you see what I call a rise in the spate of attacks. The federal government said something clearly, that the armed forces has what it takes to do it. I have no doubts about that too. But then we also have to understand that the armed forces and their capability has to be backed with a political will.
The game is changing. The Nigerian government is not relenting in its effort at ultimately bringing the terrorists to their knees. But it appears all hands must be on deck now to stop the continuous spilling of innocent blood in the country. For the big story, Sheung Okinbaloye reporting for Channels Television News.
Indomie instant noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
When the News at 10 returns, financial markets react negatively to the central bank governor's suspension. There's some business news. Join us again.